Rome was not built in a day, but in the blink of history's eye, it collapsed. At its height, the Roman Empire stretched from the sands of Africa to the misty hills of Britain, commanding over 70 million souls. Its legions conquered continents, its emperors shaped centuries, and its laws still echo in our courts today. Yet for all its power, Rome was undone not by a single enemy, but by a chain of betrayals, greed, and chaos that shattered the world's greatest empire. How did a small city on the banks of the Tiber grow into the most feared superpower the world had ever known? What secrets fueled its astonishing rise, and what hidden flaws brought about its catastrophic fall? From gladiators and generals to emperors and assassins, this is the full story of Rome, a tale of ambition, glory, and ruin. And the question remains, could it happen again? 2,500 years ago, on the banks of the River Tiber, a small settlement of farmers and shepherds gave birth to a city that would one day rule the known world. Rome began humbly, a cluster of huts, surrounded by forests and marshland, yet within centuries, its banners flew across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. From the deserts of Egypt to the northern edge of Britannia, Roman legions marched with discipline and precision unmatched in their time. For Britain, Rome's arrival was nothing short of transformative. In 43 AD, the legions of Emperor Claudius crossed the Channel and carved their presence into the landscape. They brought stone-built towns, straight roads, towering walls, and ideas of law and governance that still echo in British society today. London itself, Londinium, began as a Roman creation. To understand Britain, you must first understand Rome. But Rome was more than roads and ruins. It was a machine of power, fueled by conquest, ambition, and the belief that its empire would last forever. Yet behind the marble statues and the triumphal arches lay cracks, political intrigue, civil wars, and enemies waiting at the gates. This is the story of how Rome rose from a forgotten village to the master of empires, and how it all came crashing down. Rome did not ascend to greatness overnight. Its rise was forged in struggle, through wars of survival, ruthless ambition, and victories that reshaped the ancient world. In the early days, the fledgling republic was surrounded by enemies, rival tribes, ambitious kings, and the looming threat of Carthage across the sea. Yet Rome thrived in adversity. Its citizens believed in discipline, sacrifice, and a code that placed the republic above the individual. Legionnaires trained not just as soldiers but as builders, engineers, and loyal servants of the state. Each conquest brought new lands, new wealth, and new ideas, but also new tensions that would test the fabric of Rome itself. The Punic Wars became the proving ground of Roman resilience. When Hannibal marched his elephants across the Alps, it seemed Rome's doom was certain. Yet through sheer endurance, Rome clawed its way back, crushing Carthage and claiming mastery of the western Mediterranean. The Republic had become more than a city, it was now a rising empire. But power bred ambition, and ambition bred betrayal. Generals who once served the Senate began to serve themselves. Julius Caesar marched his legions across the Rubicon, igniting a civil war that shattered the old republic. Rome crowned its first emperor, Augustus, and in doing so, abandoned its republican ideals for the promise of stability under a single ruler. The empire was born. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome entered its golden age, the Pax Romana. For 2 centuries, peace and prosperity flowed across its provinces. Roads carved through forests and across mountains, aqueducts carried fresh water into bustling cities, amphitheaters roared with the voices of thousands. Even in distant Britannia, Roman order could be felt. Londinium rose as a trading hub, Hadrian's Wall cut across the northern frontier, and Roman culture blended uneasily with Celtic tradition. Yet beneath the splendor, shadows grew. Wealth flowed into Rome, but so did inequality. Senators feasted while slaves toiled. Emperors rose and fell in bloody succession, many murdered by their own guards. Provinces grumbled under heavy taxes, and enemies pressed ever harder at the frontiers. The very strength that had built the empire, conquest, now became its weakness. To maintain its borders, Rome stretched its armies thin, leaving cracks in its defenses. And it was in Britain, too, that cracks appeared. The mighty legions, once symbols of unstoppable power, faced fierce resistance. The revolt of Queen Boudica shook Roman control to its core, as flames consumed Londinium and thousands were slaughtered. Though crushed, the uprising revealed a truth: Rome's grip was not unbreakable. Still, the empire endured, for now. From triumph to turmoil, from discipline to decadence, Rome's story pressed onward, driven by ambition and haunted by hubris. Its leaders believed the empire eternal. But history was preparing a reckoning. By the 4th century, the Roman Empire was a giant with feet of clay. Its armies still marched, its cities still glittered, but inside, the empire was crumbling. Corruption drained the Senate, emperors rose and fell with dizzying speed, and once loyal provinces began to turn against the center. For Britain, the cracks were clear. The legions that had guarded its walls for centuries were recalled to defend Rome itself, leaving its towns and people exposed. The shield of empire was gone. Then came the unthinkable. In 410 AD, the Visigoths, led by Alaric, swept through Italy and descended upon Rome. For the first time in nearly 800 years, the Eternal City fell to an enemy. The sack of Rome sent shockwaves across the empire and beyond. To the people of Britain, abandoned and vulnerable, it was a clear signal: the empire that once seemed invincible was collapsing before their eyes. Imagine the scene: the proud marble temples, the senate houses, the bustling markets all engulfed in fire and fury. Statues toppled, treasures looted, and citizens taken as slaves. The world watched as the heart of the empire bled. Rome's enemies, long held back by the iron discipline of her legions, now surged forward, unstoppable. The illusion of eternity was shattered in a single, devastating moment. For centuries, Rome had been the master of nations, the bringer of order to Britain and beyond. But now, its downfall was no longer a distant possibility, it was reality. The greatest empire the world had ever known had been humbled. The fall of Rome was not a single event, but a long unraveling, a reminder that even the mightiest empires are not immortal. By the 5th century, Rome had lost its provinces, its wealth, and its authority. In Britain, Roman rule ended with silence, as legions withdrew and towns were left to fend for themselves. The once paved roads grew wild, villas crumbled, and the islands slipped into what history remembers as the Dark Ages. And yet, Rome never truly vanished. Its imprint can still be traced in Britain today, in the straight roads that carve across the countryside, in the ruins of bathhouses and walls, in the very language we speak, shaped by Latin roots. Even Britain's laws, politics, and architecture echo Roman ideas. Myth paints Rome as a flawless beacon of civilization, but the reality was harsher: a world of slavery, ruthless conquest, and constant inequality. Still, the legacy it left was undeniable, a framework upon which Europe, and later the wider world, would build. Rome's story remains more than ancient history. It is a cautionary tale of ambition and arrogance, of innovation and fragility. Empires rise when they adapt, and they fall when they fail to face their own flaws. For Britain, once part of that empire, the lesson is clear: power can be immense, but it is never permanent. Rome's ruins may stand silent, but its shadow lingers across centuries. And perhaps the most haunting question is not why Rome fell, but whether the world's modern powers are destined to repeat its mistakes. If you've enjoyed this journey through the rise and fall of Rome, let us know your thoughts below. What lessons do you think Rome's story holds for us today? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more history that shaped Britain and the world.